Pillar number one is mindset, and I wanted to do it away from the rugby field. So much of what goes on in your head can be developed and talked about and worked on outside of the rugby field and away from the training pitch. So we're going to cover off 3 things that really helped me develop my thoughts so that when it come to a big pressure moment, I could rely on my mindset so that my technique could execute. So those 3 things are, we're going to go through a goal kicking diary. So I'm going to take you guys through my goal kicking diary, what it looked like and how you can really develop that. People who can help with your goal kicking technique, and ways of thinking that really helped me progress my goal kicking technique and my mindset around that. So the first one was having a goal kicking diary. Now the best thing about having the diary is it really organises your thoughts. So after every session, being able to document in there something, I always just used to write one line, and organising that in the diary meant that when I come back to my next session or my next game, I'd already touched on that point. I know that there was a focus or something that I wasn't slightly getting right. It just meant that it wasn't just up in the air and I didn't know what happened in that session. So that was the best thing about organising my thoughts, so I could reflect back on it. It also shows the hours and dedication that you're putting in. So quite often a couple of years might go by and you've got no recollection of what you've covered off with your goal kicking technique. So having something that you can go back through, read through sessions, see what trends are happening within your kicking game. It's great to have a diary for those learnings. The last thing with the diary is I always used to write down, this is my technique. So every couple of months, just check in, cover off all the pillars. I didn't even know I was sort of covering off those 10 pillars, but this is my approach. This is my position I get my plant foot into. This is how I want to make contact with the ball. This is my ball setup. This is how I win momentum. And why I like that is all you're doing once you've organised those thoughts is when it comes to a practice game or a real game, you get into the game and you've got a kick. All you're doing is checking off those boxes, making sure you nail each of those points that you've already organised, and then goal kicking becomes really easy. The flip side of that is when you do miss one of those checkpoints, you know straight away what it was, get straight into your next kick and you can make that adjustment. The second part of mindset is people who can help. You need to have conversations with a lot of people who have all been there and done it and had a lot of success. So I had a few people along my way. The first one I want to talk about is Ken Hodge. Now Ken Hodge was a sports psychologist at the University of Otago. I had a few conversations with him around goal kicking mindset. And the cool thing about speaking with sports psychologists is they're not just focused on rugby and goal kicking. They've had a lot of different experiences with different sports, different ways of thinking and how to handle pressure. So he was massive for me. The best thing that I learnt about from Ken Hodge was the quiet eye. So when I got into a game, he just mentioned about being really aware of what your eyes are looking at. So for me, it was look at the ball, look at my target, back to the ball, look at my target, back to the ball. So yes, that's a really simple thing and probably goes without saying, but if you let your eyes get distracted during a game and look away and during a kick and when you're trying to be really focused, you've lost that conversation and it's gone out of the kick. So that was just one of many cues that I picked up from Ken Hodge. My coach at the time, Tony Brown, was a huge help to my goal kicking. He often would just give me one cue that I had to work on for 2 or 3 weeks. And because we spent so much time together, so many sessions, so many seasons of just picking up little cues, nothing was ever major. It was just a little adjustment to focus on. He was able to see things, especially in like a game warm-up. He'd be able to see something that was going on, quick adjustment, and we're back to striking the ball well. The other piece of that puzzle was Hayden Parker, so a kicker that I played alongside with. We were both the first fives with Otago, and we had a lot of kicking sessions where we'd just have so many conversations. How are you doing this? How are you feeling that? What do you do with your ball setup? Or why do you focus on this? And all of those small conversations were nothing too lengthy, but what it meant is that all those thoughts were going into the book and I was able to really organise what was going to work for me. One more example of a conversation I had was with Lima Sopawanga. So he played for the Highlanders and also the All Black, playing for Wasp at the moment. He would often look at someone in the crowd. So the team would score, they'd get a penalty. He'd look at someone in the crowd, identify them. For example, that guy's got on a green shirt. So that simple little thought took his brain away from the task of goal kicking, the pressure and everything else, identified that, and then when he came back to his process, it was starting from scratch. There was no external thoughts before he had to put the ball on the tee and get through his process. The last thing when it comes to people is you get your confidence from making game kicks. So when you're playing a game, pressure's on and you slot a kick, you will get so much confidence from that kick. Yes, it's really important to put in all the hours on the training field, but you have to have relationships with people and coaches to be able to put your hand up and say, yes, I'm ready to take these kicks in games. When you make those kicks, your confidence is going to go through the roof. So the third thing we're going to cover off is ways of thinking when it comes to goal kicking. So the first one is all about flow state. Not every kicking session has to be a max kicking session where we're taking big long range shots, really trying to get a full range of motion through the kick. Quite often we overload our muscles and we get hurt and injured and can't work on our goal kicking. So it is something you have to be really aware of, is not overloading and overtraining those muscles. It doesn't mean that you can't train most days and work on your craft. So flow state is all about working around 70%. Just means that we can get out there with a soccer ball, work on our grubber kicks, work on our touch finders, work on our every different style of kick that we want to try to do within 70%. So we've already covered off body training, that would fall into flow state. So the way that I use as an example is a basketballer. They can take a basketball down to the court by themselves, have a really slow moving warm up, work on their dribbling, work on their jump shots. Nothing's really forced or a max movement. So we can take that into rugby training. So just with your kicking sessions, when you are going down by yourself with your bag of balls, just be happy having a kicking session where you're not just going for long range kicks and your max efforts. Work on your craft, your muscle memory, your body training, and that's really going to help you move forward with that flow state of training. So just to wrap that up, you may only have 10 shots at goal during a training session, and that training session may have gone for 40 minutes, 60 minutes, but if you just have 10 shots, that's absolutely fine if you've covered off all those other different movements, your body training and everything else that covers off when it comes to goal kicking. Don't feel like just having shots at goal are the be all end all of goal kicking. So the second thing I want to cover is I had a 60% rule when it comes to my energy levels in game. So it might be the very first minute of a game, or it might be the 60th minute of the game. I always tried to kick around 60%, or what I thought was 60%. So if we get a penalty in the first 30 seconds and I've got to have a shot at goal, I've actually got to tell my body to get ready and get excited so I can be really deliberate through the kick. On the flip side of that, if it's the 60th minute, I've just been for a massive run or chased a kick and my heart rate's through the roof, I'm really excited, I've actually got to tell myself, just calm myself down, get back within my body so I can really be deliberate through the kick as well. So that 60% thing isn't really measurable, but for me it was just a good mental thing to say, every time I'm taking a kick, I want to be at about 60% energy levels, and that's what I aim for. Pressure is something you're going to have to deal with as a goal kicker, being in stadiums where a lot of people are looking at you execute your skill. So we can take all that energy from these people and put it through our rugby ball. So I use the example of 10,000 eyes. So when you're taking your kick, you've got your 2 eyes plus all the crowd, all their eyeballs looking at the back of the ball. So you can take all that energy and put it through the back of the ball along with your own energy. So it's a real thing that you either want to get out of that situation or you become really addicted to that situation. It's why taking kicks in games and making kicks becomes really addictive for goal kickers, because that energy and that focus is such a great feeling, especially when you execute. So take your time, enjoy that focus, you'll become addicted to taking those game kicks and really enjoy that energy going through the ball. Becoming locked in is a really fun thing to train with, so ask your family members and your teammates, coaches to help out with this. Here's a really good example of me trying to put off G when it comes to a goal kicking and remaining locked in within the kick. So one really important part of mindset for me is becoming locked in on your task. So G's taking a kick, and I think as a coach it's really something you can help with is trying to distract this player. So it doesn't matter whether I'm standing here walking in G's line, getting really close to her, calling her chicken legs and how ugly her boots are, she doesn't hear it. The other thing you can do is roll balls across the front of her, and also as she gets close to the ball, just trying to distract her. So she's going to miss this kick because she's not a very good goal kicker, but G's able to step up, stay really locked in. So at training, when you get people coming over to watch you kick, really enjoy that moment. Ask people to try and distract you, drop things, yell at you, call your names, because that's what's coming in a game. To wrap up this pillar number one, I want to talk about rhythm. So when you're kicking the ball well, when you're goal kicking well, you are in rhythm. So think about a cricketer that's scoring a lot of runs, a basketball player that's just on fire with their shooting. They're absolutely in rhythm and they're not trying to force things too hard. So when you feel like you've got rhythm, when you're kicking well, don't overdo your sessions. Don't go looking for something else. Just be happy that you're in rhythm and kicking the ball well. When you're not, we need to get back to that rhythm state. So that's the time to work really hard, put in the hours, something's gonna click eventually. But when you feel like you're not kicking the ball well, don't feel like you need to stop. Feel like you're really attention to detail. Try find that next thing, that next cue that's really gonna help you kicking so that you can get back to being in rhythm. So as promised, I want to take you guys through my goal kicking diary, show you guys what it looked like. I set this up when I was 21 and I've still got it today, and it's sort of turned into more of a coaching diary for me. So let's have a look through this. So this here's my diary. What I was chasing was the 10,000 hour rule. So the 10,000 hour rule is that. So it's the idea that it takes approximately 10,000 hours of deliberate practice to master any skill. So that was what I was aiming for. What I would do is I would just write down the date, the place. So there was Logan Park, 12 o'clock. What did I say? Very first session. Fell away to the left knee, same eye routine each time. So my handwriting wasn't that good. There's an old coffee stain from when I spilt a coffee, obviously. But just recorded all my sessions, and then quite often I'd put in my favourite players. So Matt Giddo from the Wallabies was a guy I used to love watching kick. And then just recording sessions. Who else did I have in here? Dan Carter, can't go without him. Percy Montgomery, wrote down the old J not C rule from Matt Carrington. So it's pretty cool when you start your diary, you come up with all your old plans and see how you used to organise your thoughts. There was my ball flight, so starting the ball down that right corridor, which I've talked about before. So all the stuff sort of started 10 years ago of organising my thoughts of trial and error. Surf is surf, that was a big thing that I went through with Ken Hodge. So we spoke about a surfer on a wave, just enjoying the wave and not overthinking things. So I had the cue, surf is surf, kick is kick, stop thinking. So that was a really big thing for me. So there's my goal kicking diary. I'd really encourage you guys to start yours and set it up so you can really start organising your thoughts when it comes to goal kicking.